Now looking at the Plusquamperfekt, okay, and let's go to the Plusquam here. Okay, so basically we're using the Plusquam to describe multiple past events, and we always start, there's always a first event that occurred that perhaps led to a second one, right? So that's when we use the Plusquam, and how it's going to be used is we start a sentence with nachdem, okay, after is what that means, and then that's going to start the first clause. That first clause is going to be in the Plusquamperfekt, and in English this translates as the past perfect. Okay, so it's going to be similar to the present perfect. Ich habe gemacht is going to change to ich hatte gemacht. All right. And also because we start the sentence with nachdem, it sends the verb to the end. All right. So let's look at the example down here that I have. Nachdem ich meine Hausaufgaben gemacht hatte, okay, kochte ich Abendessen. So after I had done my homework, I cooked dinner. Okay. A few other examples here. On this one just shows we know that machen is regular, and it's also going to use the auxiliary haben, right? So instead of habe gemacht, it's going to be hatte gemacht, right? But because we start with nachdem, that hatte is going to be sent at the end of this clause. So it's always going to be hatte, right, or war that's going to be at the end of that clause when we're starting with nachdem. Okay. Let's use one using sein. Nachdem ich aufgestanden war, frühstückte ich ganz schnell und fuhr zur Arbeit. So after I woke up, or after I had gotten up, I ate breakfast quickly and drove to work. Nachdem ich aufgestanden war, frühstückte ich ganz schnell und fuhr zur Arbeit. Okay? Or here's a few other examples. Nachdem ich zur Arbeit gefahren war, sprach ich mit meinem Chef. Okay? After I drove to work, or after I had driven to work, there's a couple ways of conjugate or interpreting that. I spoke with my boss. Nachdem ich mit ihm gesprochen hatte, arbeitete ich den ganzen Tag an einem Vortrag. After I spoke with him, or after I had spoken with him, I worked on a presentation all day, or I worked all day on a presentation. It really just depends on the context and how you want to interpret that. Alright, now let's go to some of the examples of Plusquamperfekt. Okay, and basically I just took examples that I had provided for the simple past, or the imperfect above, and I incorporated those down here. Nachdem Stefan eine Cola getrunken hatte, putzte sich die Zähne. So after Stefan had drank a cola, he brushed his teeth. Putzte sich die Zähne. Nachdem der Hund aus der Toilette getrunken hatte, wollte mir einen Kuss geben. Okay, after the dog drank from the toilet, had drank from the toilet, he wanted to give me a kiss. Ich lehnte natürlich ab. Of course, I refused. Nachdem wir nach Japan gegangen waren, aßen wir Sushi und lernten wir ein bisschen Japanisch. Okay, so after we had gone to Japan, okay, and actually gegangen might be the wrong verb to use here, because it's probably assuming that we had already gone to Japan. But just for the context of this, let's just use it. Nachdem wir nach Japan gegangen waren, after we had gone to Japan, probably should say maybe something like angekommen, after we had arrived in Japan. Okay, so let's use that because we're still in Japan, right? Nachdem wir nach Japan angekommen waren, after we had arrived in Japan, aßen wir Sushi, we ate sushi, und lernten ein bisschen Japanisch, and we learned a little Japanese. Okay, so you can combine two verbs there, but you just have to separate those. Okay, aßen wir Sushi, lernten ein bisschen Japanisch. Those are separated by that coordinating conjunction, und. Nachdem mein Vater den Wagen repariert hatte, mähte den Rasen. Okay, after my father had repaired the car, he mowed the lawn. Okay, alles klar. Lastly, let's look at als wenn wann. I don't have any extra examples of these in the Google Doc. I think these are rather easy, but just you have to pay attention to some specifics. Wann is going to be used mostly with direct or indirect questions. It isn't always going to be the case, but most of the time, if you see a question, chances are good it's going to be using wann. Okay, wann kommst du nach Hause? Wann gehen wir Skifahren? If it were to be used in a sentence rather than a question, okay, for instance this. Weiß nicht, wann das nächste Mal nach Japan geht. Okay? He doesn't know when he will go next to Japan. Okay? So it's used as an indirect statement. We go, indirect statement just means that we start with one clause, okay, and then we begin the next clause typically with a question word. And what that does is the question word sends the verb to the end. So, weiß nicht, he doesn't know, wann das nächste Mal nach Japan geht. He doesn't know when he will go. So it's not asking a question, but it's still referring to something of not being known when. Okay, let's go back to this. Als is always going to refer to something, a single event, or a block of time that's in the past. Als ich nach Hause kam, gab es eine Party. Okay, so we could also include the Plusquam here, but just for purposes of this, let's not get into that. I don't want to make it too confusing. Als ich nach Hause kam, gab es eine Party. Als ich in Wien war, lernte ich deine Mutter kennen. Okay, so when I came home, there was a party. All right, so this is just saying, referring to, oh, remember that time when I came home and there was a party. Okay, that's a one-time event. Okay, als ich in Wien war, when I was in Vienna, that could mean a whole block of time. It could mean you were there either for, several days or a month or a year. When I was in Vienna, I met your mother. Lernte ich deine Mutter kennen. Okay, then when we use then, we're going to refer to a present, future, or even a past event. And that's always going to be a repeated event. So whenever you see a word that's going to give it away, if it's a time element or some kind of adverb that's going to say, okay, this is a regular occurrence, then we're going to be using wenn. Wenn ich Geburtstag habe, lade ich viele Freunde ein. Okay, well, a birthday is a repeated event, so therefore we use wenn. Okay, so when it's my birthday or when I have a birthday, I always invite friends over. Okay, or I invite friends over. Wenn wir jede Woche Stammtisch hatten, ja, war es immer gemütlich. Okay, when we had Stammtisch every week, it was always nice. Okay, alles klar. Viel Glück. We'll see each other in class. Danke.